Hey, 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 we're the monkeys. People say we monkey around. Sorry if I can't sing and I keep singing and I realize I just was laying in bed watching the last one. I started singing a little too long. It's real bad though. It's real bad. It's not good. I'm like, I'm alright. Just, dude, go like figure your fucking don't don't. Okay. Anyway, while that was happening, I was having some thoughts here. I was thinking here is like a tooth, and then I was looking over here, like, is this it? Like here, maybe, or to like here, maybe, like kind of there on like and by tooth I mean like one of these. Let's get a good image of like a sharp toothed shallogram. Oh, damn it. Luckily, I don't know the lyrics. Sharp toothed, like right there, the indentation. So essentially, that is inverse. Interesting. It's probably related to like a other half, maybe. And then here, like there's a bubble. Like there's a bond here between whatever the bubble is forming across, like Australia. A bond and a bond, but the bubble, like the wavelengths, like I've been talking about. Hopefully, if you're watching this video, you've seen enough of my previous videos to make sense of what I'm saying without me like elaborating too much. Where like the wavelength is kind of, like say, let's find a good coastline. Just like here, it's it's stable. So like where it fractured was kind of in a direct line. So there's not like indentation, like bubbles. There's not like a chunk missing like right here. Oh dear God, Dad. I don't know what to do, guys, about that. I'm not a doctor. I'm a this person. You know what I'm saying? Maybe one day we'll like branch into those kinds of things. But right now, I'm still here. God, holy shit. So there's no bubble. Like there's some here. So here's an example maybe of where it did happen. Like here and like here. So maybe this was kind of like connected here and like a bubble formed. Maybe causing even some protrusions in some inward segments here that aren't quite as across. Oh my God. I fucking like it's just oh, it's still like ringing in my ears. Just fucking. It just gets worse and worse. It's just. Oh my god, I don't know what to do except just blah blah blah. Head in sand. So let me put my head in the sand here and I don't know. We'll pretend that's not happening. That I'm not just putting my head in the sand and going on as if nothing just happened. I don't know if you guys hear. I'm pretty sure that was audible, like real audible. Anyway, just fucking stop smoking me. Probably that's probably like a I'm this person, he says, but like also like this person is aware of the energetic flows that are of a more subtle nature, where I'm just sitting here smoking and maybe subtly feeding energies into my surroundings. People who can't handle it because of their history with that type of environment, we're just, it's not. Like, I feel like maybe I could change myself in that way, and maybe that would help heal somehow. His like cough, it is just, I don't know. There's gotta be a way to heal it. Like, I feel like it's toxins that are trapped inside of him that none of these medicines do a fucking thing for except for to mask the effects of the toxins. But the toxins then just sit there, like, in his body and interact with his cells, and they, like, they mucus up and shit. They just start reacting. Like, they got these basically pollution. That's the thing, is it's pollution. It's not climate. It's climate change. That's the concern. It's pollution. That's the real concern. That's like the real killer, because it gets into our body and like creates these like nuclei around which currents can flow, which then like create inflammation. I don't know how to get rid of it though, because it gets trapped in us when it's these particles. There's got to be a way to like cleanse us of these particles. Water, but like, is that enough? Certainly, it's not gonna do it if there's no effort. But just like this current, where there's this like backstop, this big current fanning out, and then this little current that narrows and it really just like goes through the whole earth. The fanning one needs to fan out to be like a something for this other current to effectively push pressure against and flow this way. And so flow this way and up here and wrap around, go this way and branch off and go over here, come down here, branch off, go this way, branch this way, go over here, cut across also from this split region going over here, I believe. Or is that from no, that's from here. That's also from there though, like when it goes down through North America to then run into over here and then branch up this way, go up this way, through here, go through here, go through here. It's wrapping just around everywhere, but with a backstop of this like fanning out region that's like a shallogram, producing a feature really like this, like a backstop that fans out and has like dividing lines where the currents like really dug into those dividing lines effectively, and then less, where essentially more current went there because it just was flowing through there, creating a channel, and then like more, it flew across the entirety of the things of this nature within the earth. But generally speaking, unless it created enough of a mound where like the layer reached the overlying crust and produced like a pillar that supported the earth, then it just flowed around those things and built like the structure around it. But in essence, it produced a backstop like this so that it then like had like a beam. Not that this necessarily does, although I see some interesting thing where I'm like, does it do that? Like, does it have like an outlet there? Like a beam? Boom! That's in Hawaii. Let's check it out. It really does have like a depressed region here that wraps around. How cool is this world we're in right now? In some ways. Can I move over there? I want to be like at the peak. Maybe let's see where I can drop. How did I do that? How did it give me a street view in there? Well, darn. This. This is a good example where the teeth were carving through something and like created a bubbling region that went out of sync, so it has like a resonance up here that continues here, but also one that seems to come down in here and cut through there, creating this like bubble region here. Which is pretty much how the Earth expanded by, like, here's the boundary of North America where it starts to have all of these different, like, flow channels that were most distinct, creating these kinds of features, and then at the boundary of them, like around Baja, California. This one even has like a chakra feature there, and maybe like one there, kind of thing on a smaller scale, and one there on a smaller scale. And maybe like an inverse chakra of like a negative region here. I don't know why it would be inverse. They tend to be. Although maybe it doesn't either. I'm wondering if this energetically is connected more so back, like directly in line to this. Are there other features? I haven't looked around. I just happened to notice that one day. I was like, that's a shallogram. Took a picture. Cool. Add that to the list. Haven't really like looked around this island very much. It looks surreal. This doesn't even look real. It's crazy. What? You guys are just living here? That's crazy. Oh my god. The house is in the lava flow. I guess it's reliably extinct lava flows. Although I've seen houses burning in the lava here, so it's maybe it's actually this is like unfortunate lava flows through. That's crazy. It looks like active when this picture was happening. Or else like concerningly hot looking or something. Okay. What can we find here? Here's one. Okay, that's a good indicator. Like it's kind of where the vibration goes out of sync and bubbles up and vents, where we have just this basically a collision. Because if we go to Hawaii, what's really happening here is there's a current coming across this way, generally speaking, a first current plus a second current from here, from the mantle puncture hole that goes out this way. Once the Earth starts to expand, instead of flowing up this way, it has the Pacific Ocean to flow more into, so it flows over here, specifically across this, and like ramps through this, like interacts with this flow. But generally speaking, it gets across it and starts to, like the overall width of it starts to produce this boundary, as well as just interact down through here. I've talked about this in other places. I know there's another, Hawaii's like a triple current interaction. It might be this current from the southeast tip of Australia that's coming in that way, hitting this tip up through here and just creating this channel. But when the Earth starts to expand, then that current starts to flow. Also, I guess like more along to the right and kind of up this way. Maybe even specifically right here, this way, across, and like right to Hawaii, basically. So that Hawaii is like a triple junction intersection, making it Hawaii, like the main island, Maui, or whatever all the islands are. I don't know all the islands. Mauna Oahu, Kauai. I've seen these names. I don't know them though. They all look familiar. Not that one. Oh. But the main island of Hawaii, I guess this is Hawaii, and then these are like the islands of Hawaii is like a chain. Like it's almost like it's the nucleus, and these are like it's orbiting planets, electrons, something. Okay, let's keep looking at it though more directly, because essentially it's this triple intersection. So maybe this kind of represents that, like 1, 2, 3, and maybe a fourth one that I'm not quite accounting for. I'm wondering. At least 3 look to be here. One that generally comes in this way, like the lava. So let's go to this. Lava flows. This one, pause here. So basically, like this kind of location where there's 1, 2, 3 flows, generally speaking, in that towards that location, currents that are flowing, like especially along the boundaries, in ways that essentially lead to, in instances, triple junctions, maybe even I don't see any any four junction, like another split. They probably happen, but at times they vibrate out of sync. So when these are somewhat in sync, they're somewhat vibrating out of sync. These are quite in sync. These are in some way looking in sync, but in some like foggy in sync way, which is kind of interesting. Almost like it's out of sync in a heat way and making them higher elevation. So it's like a certain flow one way or the other tendency. But over here they flow out of sync so much that it bubbles open and like separates the plates out of, because they vibrate out of sync in that location. That's just play it real quick because it's just too. So here, this is good. Just the way it does this, it starts. Just add some boundary point that creates some divide, like this thing, maybe some protruding thing that maybe is related to some bubble that occurred here, like. And then it puts out particles that are more hot, dense, probably in terms of like heat, creating like stars within the flows. And also within the stars creating, thinking about it now, it just pops in my mind, galaxy clusters, galaxy clusters, galaxy. But so notice how they, right here, they begin to vibrate out of sync. Here and just along this length, I think this is where the explosion happens. Maybe it's here. But these two start to divide physically and widen in space. And as that happens, it starts to divide here, which is where then suddenly it bubbles up. Boom. And creates this feature. And then it bubbles over there too. So we can kind of get it, like, notice that feature? That looks a lot like this. I wonder if it even has like that. That looks reminiscent of what I was mentioning earlier, as looking like it was bubbles. But like, does it have like spray like this? Kind of like that spray. These outside of it. And then this, if we go back to the Earth, before, let me just real quick point this out, if I can scroll. If I can scroll. If I can scroll. This. Yeah. So I was trying to figure out where the bubble was, but then I'm thinking, like, wait a minute. If we look at this, if we imagine, at some point I said, well, it's attached here, then because of this, like, region, it looks like it fanned out to here. And then Australia was moving away, and then it exploded. Like the Earth, when Australia broke away, it didn't just like snap free. It broke free by a bubble. So I'm noticing that. I'm not sure, but here, maybe here also, like it broke a bond. Here's a bond breaking. Here's a bond breaking. here's a bond breaking, like the bigger bond. And in so doing, produced these bubbles that then basically spaced the system enough so that it could then freely flow, especially because the bonds were breaking. Because essentially, I wonder if there's one of these, like right here. Because this to me is like a bond that was there. One of these is like related to here. Maybe even underneath it. Related to what's underneath it, like a bond broke right here. Or it just didn't break and it's still kind of, whatever this was bonded to is essentially this. Energetically, at this stage at least, so that it like doesn't have a quite broken bond. But this is right where the current's coming out. Here. I guess there. Was it? This one? Pretty much right along where this goes inward, right here. So like here, yeah. So a bond broke there. A bond broke there, I guess, or was it there? And there? Up there, next to Ba, that's right. There's the middle one, there's big one. There's that one. Next to Baja California, right around here-ish. So that bond was connected to... If we just follow this back, maybe, like Papua New Guinea, like right here. Let's see. Let's see if Papua New Guinea makes any sense with that. Like here. Right there. Was right there. So Papua New Guinea was here. Like here. Pardon me. Like fuzzy in my mouth. Okay, and then the other side. Okay, now we're seeing on the other side this like kind of hexagon and almost not just hexagon, but having the crown type structure where it comes down, has like a little, even a little indentation there, goes across, goes down and back up, so having that like peak there, and then across and back up, which for reminder is here, right here, we see it here. We also seem to see it here in some fashion, so it happens like regularly-ish around the Himalayas in a way where it's just all over the place, but especially defined there. Somewhere else I recently found it that I don't remember, but it looks like we're seeing it right here as well. And that's definitely associated with right here and the lack thereof. Like we see it defined on the upper half, but not on the bottom half. So maybe the bottom half's definition has been displaced. Like this is like the yin, and then the yang sections of it or something. And so it basically disconnected here and here were these two, and then Australia then was bonded from this point of Papua New Guinea over to here, which was really from here down to here, like here-ish in this region. It's crazy. Like if Papua New Guinea was here, like what was up here? Just closed space? Was it that close where it was really just attached practically? That is crazy if so. It's just, or just like this stuff. It's just not that much mass though, like right here. It's maybe Australia equivalent, maybe, if I'm like being generous in terms of like the volume of landmass. So let's say another Australia. So like from here to here, like basically this almost the screen. So like from, I guess another Australia maybe could have been fitting in there out of these materials just about. If like, especially if like generally like this segment of it, like all of this from like here maybe, like this chunk, all of this was just generally like just fitting over here as the like rest of this. I mean, it does look like current wise it might fit. The Pacific is just so complex to figure out what was going on up here before the Earth expanded. Like, what exactly was where. But now we got Papua New Guinea, like, reliably pinned into these pinpoints. And then we got Australia reliably here. And then, basically, maybe I can, like, take some Photoshop some stuff together and like just cut out the continents and try to like move them around here to just kind of suggest more clearly what I'm getting at. Because essentially Papua New Guinea would be here, and this region maybe would be more like this, with South America like right here around here, like that. And then Antarctica would be down here. But across, filling all the way across, like connecting, it connects to here. And even maybe down here, I think. I don't even know what I was talking about because that was so yeah, it was just so significant of a realization that I'm just a little distracted. Like, is is there another even bigger one down here? It's kind of weird that they're not. This is probably the one that really was Chicxulub, or 66 million years. Like this one, maybe this occurred, and then this occurred, and then this occurred, and then just down the coastline, buttons becoming just a chain reaction. Once this bottom one opened up like this and did this, and the bond broke between the two polygons, so that it was freely, like, essentially that's what's happening. Like this polygon, this material is physically connected to this material. Like they've solidified to a point where they're one unit. Like but there's a current flowing between them, and that current goes out of sync enough where it opens up a space, but then the physical material on top of the molten mantle below is now in this region free of the bond to this polygon. But if it only breaks there, then it only does that. But if it begins to just go along the whole coastline, then it opens up physically the shape like a shallogram to just like widen it. This is maybe not the best one for widening it. This one down here shows it real well. This probably shows it pretty good. Just widening it. It widens. So this one, starting here, it widens it, wraps around, widens it more, widens it, widens it, widens it, widens it, widens it. The nucleus supernovas and freezes in some block segment, continues to widen it, widen it. Then it's getting so wide that it starts to produce these like next level, so like next level of widening, where like it produces these step features. Just observing in the moment, really. I don't never I should buy this. I need to get I was thinking about like I should get a job and just start buying these. I don't want to like not have them. It would be so, oh my, if I could own this one right here and like look at it in the same way as I look at this one. Like I've made posts about this one. Let me pull it up. I don't know if I've talked about it. Sorry if I have, and I'm talking about my stuff again. I posted it here. Pardon me as I be insane. Eureka. Here we go. How this one has just like it had a particle, but it physically supernovaed outward this way into this region. But this part of the particle remains solid enough and didn't explode away, so it's just sitting there to this day. Just kind of there, but like with a pretty solid rounded outer edge and just this like exploded inner body. And where the exploded inner body is this like directionally this filling material. This one's so cool. I have 6 pictures of it. Okay, yeah, but then essentially it widens it. So it must have gone this way. It must have started with like eddies down here that just, instead of fully severing it, produced like this kind of feature where it was continuous. Like it was actually a continental shelf through this region, but then it bubbled up here, but the bubble wasn't enough to like fully change the system, just enough to like remove some material in some way to make it essentially not quite as high, maybe. Just spitballing now at this stage. But essentially that there's eddies that started going down this current, maybe down this side because of the collision of the currents, that maybe started to open up the shallogram feature essentially way back here, like way back even before here, like not detectably building into here, and then like by Baja California being more detectable. And then continuing, oops, until it reaches where it actually novas in like a large way. So this is probably the last one of this chain of events of these novas, 2 of which were along each side of Papua New Guinea, 2 of which were along each side of Australia, basically. 1, 2, 1, 2. Wonder if there's more of those types of features around. Because it distinctly has like a boundary. And just by seeing those, that really makes that one that much more clearly one. So I guess this probably was one, and maybe these were one. Like each of these locations were like down here. It did it just way narrower. That actually makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Like this current coming down here that went this way, like it continued to go this way, but it did so and like it went as far as it could and then it turned, but the energy generally was pushing it this way, so it kept turning back into it maybe to essentially carve through it like this. But as it's carving through it, it's just producing larger eddies that start like even back here maybe enough to start to open like a channel that maybe goes there and then over here and there through here, and just begins to widen the channel and widen the channel and widen the channel. So here, maybe it's just breaking off continental shelf components, creating like the islands constituents. Like these things are all maybe like being shaped by that process to a degree to at least fuel some of the smaller bits that just got like moved in the currents at that point. I just observed this again. I've seen this before. It's from Cross Currents. I can't remember exactly. I talked about it. I think what I said about it is probably still something I would agree with generally, but I am not completely certain at this point because I feel like what I've been saying about things has evolved so much in this process that I'm not sure. It almost looks like the current in colliding with this other current is also being forced to branch off with eddies that are then these seamounts in chains. So that current coming down this way probably cuts across here, down through here to a degree. Let's look at this then. If that's going on, let's check it out. Like this, feeding actually out here. Just physically extending out here. Through here. It even has novas suggestive of those things occurring. So maybe that gives us some insight into what's going on with the novas. It's just like a bubble bursting between two polygonal boundaries of like still solidifying hot magma upper layer that's on top of a molten lava type of, like, this is just very representative of just what's going on in those instances where there's some bond between the boundaries. So we see that going on here. We see the ring out there. We see some ringing out further with like a mirror. Down through here, and then here, what's going on? It looks like it suddenly starts going maybe there, but also down this way. It certainly goes to here. There's some out here, so I guess it does go out this way. at least in part. Like it separates. This current probably starts to branch apart because it's going through a counter current. So it just begins to branch, like just like over here, going through this current and cross through, and then it branches and dependent on the type of current, the mass. So the current that's going more straight is the more subtle particles. I guess like the heat energy is more propagating this way, whereas the mass is being more deflected this way. The mass current is more deflected inward. I don't know if that made complete sense. Obviously, if that didn't make sense, it didn't make sense, dude. What are you talking about? Um, Maybe it just like bubbles out over and over repetitively as the boundary forms. Like here, like how open this is, now it bubbled. But before it was like this, way more closed, even more closed than that. Like physically connected here. Maybe that's even related, like because this polygon and this polygon were fully connected through here, but they started to separate through here. That it's like their in syncness became less in sync, so they're less bonded to one another. So they're more uh, independent systems from one another that just have their own vibrational frequency. And so then it begins to have like interference where they don't just kind of float as one because it goes out of sync here. The bond breaks, which then starts to go out of sync down here, which goes more and more vibratorily out of sync. Even down here, we're seeing it. Like this whole stretch starts to go vibrationally out of sync. We just saw like a little bit of heat go through there, it looked like. So for sure something of that nature is going on. Cool, so we definitely made some progress. Wow. That, that. Back to here. And then it starts very much like subtle and then just starts to like widen the opening. So really this is maybe where the shallogram opening is, which kind of makes sense that it would be like right here, which is also probably adjacent to, generally speaking, somewhere over here. So maybe there's a similar location. I don't know if it would be detectable because there's a lot of current that flowed across it. Maybe something of that nature that would give it away. Give it away, give it away. Give it away now. Or this one. I know this one's interesting for some reason, but I can't remember. Something to do with the north-south gravity alignment, but after that I don't remember specifically. Like for sure the like this the crust went under the continental crust here to underlay it in a way that like brought water here. That basically means there's a volcano, but there's not like a deep mantle source. It's really from upper mantle source, which was anomalous. That's all I remember. I know there's more to it than that, but that's all I can recall. Also, before I forget, I want to just real quick mention this. At some point in the last video, I watched it while I was laying down chilling, thinking, just like having some thoughts. And I said that this current flows this way, and I drew it even going this way. I'm not completely sure that it does. It doesn't quite give me that feeling. I kind of just forced it through here. Like, yeah, probably. But maybe this just flows in and meets the general resistance of the currents over here and produces a wall, and then it just flows into this and just fills it without any source from this pink region. And the reason I say that is because, well, because essentially I was like, well, the current must continue, and so it goes over here. I'm like, wait a minute, the current does continue, and how it continues is by rolling on top of itself over and over, folding and uplifting mountains way into the sky. That just basically the way the current continued is by shooting upward into a mountain range. And so I don't think this pink necessarily had to continue here, and in reality this is untrue, this pink. Mistake. Let's see if I can erase it, if I'm lucky. Too far. Let's Control Shift Z. Undo, redo. There we go. There we go. There we go. Alright, we're back. And cancel. Over here. I think this I accidentally moved. Okay. But yeah, essentially this current probably is actually the source here, and I'm mistaken here. And this current flows over here, fills the Kursk magnetic anomaly region, and also by flowing like generally downward into the mantle and just pushing against it and just producing like a deep mass that's like tall and just a lot of material, but not protruding upward, more so downward, almost like an underground Himalayas. And then over here, the above ground Himalayas were formed. Maybe this is like an underground Himalayas, like precisely, like right here, and it doesn't quite have the eddy that I drew. That would be crazy if it mirrored it like that. I wouldn't be surprised though. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, did I have something else to say? I was kind of looking, like this could be one of those. The way it has this structure. It just looks like a bubble would do that. Like one of these. Down here. And that we're just not able to see this because of cross currents that float across it. Enough to hide the cross that it had such a feature, although maybe we can see it in that the cross currents flowed over it and like tended to maybe produce eddies there that left mounds. Maybe it fell through the crack and just built up and flowed across and sealed the crack, but in the meantime just like produced some eddies there. But this it couldn't seal, so it just left enough of a remnant of it. Maybe up here too. Not sure why this would be so big though. Okay, let's get an idea of this by actually looking at this map. Now that I've just talked about it in happenstance, maybe it's like that. I don't know. Where was that? That's pretty. Oh yeah, so right up here. Pretty close to the Hawaiian island chain. Where is Hawaii? Here it is. Here we go. Here we go, okay. It's pretty close up here. Like here. This does kind of look different than this. Like this is a broken bond from like here maybe. So maybe this broke from here. This broke separated energetically. And then as it separated, it kind of participated in sending a ripple through this region. But it just like a mound, like this was the mound that then propagated a wave in the opposing direction that became more streamlined, more focused, like the currents from the mantle puncture hole, where one direction is like this, it bubbles out, and the other direction it becomes focused. So maybe over here it kind of did that, and it fractured here this way, but then the energy from the fracturing like this, like when this separates, how the energy goes through here. It's not as strong, obviously, as where it's like crazily noticeable, but it's visible. Maybe we can see it happen over here too. We can certainly see the ripples and the waves over there, but not like the heat energy in like a piercing way. Although that maybe is indicative of something that I'm not quite thinking about. That there are those types of just like waves. Maybe that's kind of what's in some way inducing the like features in general on a wider spread scale. Like maybe like here it bubbled in this region, but that bubble, or this region, that bubble was able to actually create a ripple out to this region and to this region. That kind of makes sense to me. So it bubbled over here probably when this region was there. Rippling through there, and just rippling through there. Which then led to another, basically, knocking another bond region out of sequence enough. Another region where it just became so out of sync that another major bond point broke where these started to happen. Especially here, this one, and then it was so substantial that maybe it just like severed across here, like really more cleanly broke these apart, where this kind of looks like it just, I don't know what I'm talking about with that. Something to go from here to there. What is this? Guadalupe Island. Bubbled there, bubbled there, bubbled there, bubbled there. And at that point, maybe also bubbled here. Unclear. Possible. Maybe actually bubbled here, followed by like a smaller bubble here, and then kind of like rippling in here, but with like bubbles along the way to like be related to what these boundaries of this, almost like the energy of the expansion is now coming to a close and stopping around here. So like again, in the inverse of over here is happening, and it stops right there, and that's like the two sides of the opening mouth kind of thing of the shallogram, maybe, where this is like A big bubble. Which has gotta just be tied to when Antarctica and South America is severed. Let's go to this. This. Like this region was still connected. So let's see, there's a current that went fanned out like here, I guess. Went out this way, but began to fan out as it went. Mainly this way, but fanning out as it went. And then this one narrowing and going this way. So it begins to go across the boundary of Antarctica, the western boundary, and then the western boundary of Australia. Is that the right one? That one. Going along this way though. Here, like this way specifically, inland. And then wrapping around wherever the North Pole region was there. I guess this way. And then this way, and then this way, and then this way kind of thing. Something of that nature. Or, wait. Here. Like that. Something like that. But like that's suggesting then that the far western corner of Australia is up there. Like this is here. But also the far west, like this is up there. Is that possible? That this is connected. These two locations are these two locations. This is the other side of Papua New Guinea. Here. Yeah, that's possible. Okay, so then Australia, so it's hinged here with Australia wrapping actually around here, so that this stretch, I guess this. Which corner is it putting of these two corners nearest to? It's really putting this corner. So this corner, yeah, that makes sense. This corner is here. So maybe it wasn't those two, obviously. This corner, maybe that's one, I don't know. Was here. This was up here. Oh my god. That's how far Australia moved. And that's crazy. or how much the ocean opened between Australia. I don't know if it even really moved that much, besides just, I mean, it definitely moved though. It moved by the ocean filling the space between it. But didn't it really move? Kind of like expansion of space. Can't resist. What can I say? Oh. Okay. So does this feature then right here? That's like right here. Maybe that's like a remnant of some bubble bursting. I don't know. And this, just this kind of this general in here. Plausible. Plausible. Okay, okay. We're getting somewhere. That's some substantial progress now. This for sure was a position where there was like a boundary of a polygon, so this is probably where the Australia generally was. To there. And then kind of going around about here. It just was so closed up that it made sense. So if Australia was like that, then it was probably kind of generally in here-ish, somewhere. Maybe all this stuff is just like barely moved and just reshaped into an arc to a degree, but really, like, mostly from generally this region. Maybe from this region. Actually, this looks like those bubbles that are just kind of taking mass out with the currents involved. So, like, because over here, especially here, like, there's a positive here and a negative here. A positive, negative, like here. So, like, the material is missing of these half of the arcs, like this one right here, and then right here, they're missing. So it almost like divides this energy, leaves half of it, and brings the other half with it along this stretch, which is also shallogram-like, because the bubble, there's definitely bubbles just happening here, and here, and here. Generally speaking, like it's a bubble type of feature, like that lava. And here, that's just focusing the energy down to a point, but also dividing it and making it like half land, half sea. Crazy, crazy, and so cool. It's just so cool. This world is so cool. It's just so cool. How do we just like together marvel at how cool this world is and just share and like the things that don't matter as much as just like priceless things that nothing can buy except for interaction with one another. So that kind of makes sense for why this is going on. Is around Papua New Guinea. That current, here's Papua New Guinea, from here to here. So there's a current running into it and then physically going through it underneath it, producing a plutonic complex from its like node to its other node, but not going energetically out of sync as to detach the boundaries of the polygons so it stays conjoined, but leaves behind this this plutonic complex of the current that was flowing up the coast of Papua New Guinea, up here, up the western coast here, underneath Papua New Guinea. But with the broken bond here of missing material that's basically halved, and the broken bond here of missing material that's basically halved, producing this overall like tab feature. Tab. So it was connected there, which maybe was folded in here, like this portion of Papua New Guinea maybe more was energetically like down here before the earth expanded, because these are like this, but really like this practically, like they need to be folding so much that like they're just closer, like in essence. So maybe this region was opened up when they spread, and really this segment was more here. Actually, this might be a cross current of this current, like going down through here. This current, yeah. It's not just a current going this way. There was a current going this way, out through here, and then up this way. This region, but then it runs into a cross current, which maybe is, I'm just looking to see if we can see it here, maybe like this. I feel like it's visible in locations down here, like this. So it's probably more like here. It's kind of depicting the cross current. But essentially coming through here, novaing, through here. Oh. And then we don't see much in this stretch from here to here, but that's when it's going through Papua New Guinea. So it's underneath Papua New Guinea, which is stabilizing the flow, because Papua New Guinea is sufficiently stable to stabilize the flow going underneath it. And that's flowing northward. The flow going this way. Maybe just because it's close enough to here. Like, where it comes out and branches to the side under Papua New Guinea, it isn't like... It isn't in the region where it's like explosively causing this type of thing, where it causes a physical gaping hole in the earth that just magma is at, but then it continues to go through the earth and through the earth and through the earth. But this doesn't happen maybe without this back current from here that just channels through here and is held stable by Papua New Guinea between the not sure about here, from this region to here, so that it's really not as present in the terrain. I feel like that's a thing going on. So I'm just going to keep saying it and assume it until I see otherwise, and begin to incorporate it into my considerations to a degree, if I can remember it well enough. Does look like there's a big one here, a smaller one here, and then just a chain of them maybe up through here that are just narrow, but kind of where this is going across there. So maybe after that point of Papua New Guinea is a short burst of like nova centers, which would suggest that like this stretch of Australia should look like that too. So I guess here, like this region, like there's certainly, well, if it's connected here, energetically there, or maybe there. That may be the next one. Let's measure this. $500, and then about 900 more miles. Maybe 930. Okay, how far? First of all, how far is this? Is this around 930 miles? Nice. Okay. Good sign. Okay. Now let's measure another maybe 500 miles. Okay. Okay, we're getting somewhere. We noticed there. Assuming that this here to around here, like this segment is, it looks like this here is continuous here, that they're like, this isn't some like change in shape. It generally was like continuous across here, and so therefore like there was a bond that broke here, and there, and we, what this is showing is the remnants of that bond breaking. So there's another bond broken there. Maybe it continues across here into another bond breaking, where as the bonds break, they begin to bubble out here, to balloon out, like this region. With like a positive, a dense region, and a negative, a subtle region that got essentially these things sweeping into them enough to balloon the region. So some current came in, which lava tends to do, where it has like a lobe, so it like comes in and balloons this region out. Once it's able to get through, like this bond breaks, this bond breaks, this bond breaks, but also this whole stretch seems to have allowed for a flow through to flow in here to a degree, where then it's hard to say what was pre-existing. Maybe here even. Because essentially, this is probably right here. So let's measure again to this one. So from the bottom of California to the top of California, is that about 600 miles? Or that this, like this region from here to here? It is 476, maybe to this region. To this, and I kind of went to here, maybe to this, I'm thinking. Not to cheat and do it again, but 540. So like from here, oops, center of this is about there, to the center of this about there. 540, I said. Not that far, especially if it opened up some space between it, which it maybe did. I mean, probably not. This is probably way more than 30 miles, but maybe it just added like 30 miles of space between without like needing to add like this entire width of space between to space it out. What would that mean? What would that mean, though? It almost would suggest this is like this right here. This looks a lot actually like this. Actually, even like the Mariana Trench, this region here. Definitely like the Mariana Trench, which is a good sign. But also this region. I mean, maybe. So I'm wondering if whatever, like that bond was here, and then the next bond was like, I guess here-ish, and then the next bond was maybe over here, but it was actually over here, like this segment. Like maybe this segment was mostly here. And so it was kind of like this and this, but in the opposite direction, really. Well, from here to Baja California here to that other next one there, the length of about California there, and then that segment where this mass is. Let's see how wide this, like from here to about here is another about 600 miles. So we're pretty much, this region kind of makes sense then, if it basically from here to about here-ish. I mean, somewhere in there is pretty similar to that width, and then this generally is about where this corner is in shape. Here, which maybe was here. I mean, that's my thoughts, is it was here. This was here. Which was also here in some way, or like adjacent. I think here, like what before the Earth before this region got formed, maybe before the Earth expanded, even like maybe before the Earth expanded, it was producing the feature here over here, but then the Earth expanded and it also moved it over here. But then, like the current, because essentially this is the Mariana Trench is being formed from a current coming up this across here, down underneath here, across underneath, and then to the Mariana Trench. But before the Earth expanded, it was not going to the Mariana Trench. It was going somewhere else precisely. And maybe precisely where it was going is where I was just looking at. Right. So here's the Mariana Trench region. But here's Papua New Guinea. So basically up in these islands, where here is that like mimicking the Rangelia terrain, Alexander terrain, Stikine terrain that I was just looking at the last few days. So this is probably fed across by a current here, and we can even see another current that's like upward and this way. Suggestive that there's a collision of currents in this region before it got moved, because it was maybe just moved and forming in an arc shape over here, kind of like this, but further out. But then it just got moved, so it wasn't necessarily, it didn't form as an arc afterwards. It was just getting rearranged as an arc out here, like a secondary arc, where the first arc was here, second arc was here, like bowing out. Then first arc, which really wasn't even forming like an arc seemingly, like out this way, is forming more this way, because essentially this current was maybe overwhelming the other current, so it bowed out that way. But then once the earth fractured apart enough to expand and currents started to relieve pressures, then maybe over here later this current was more potent and able to overwhelm and push over top this current, creating this region in that shape, where this one's more in the opposite arc shape, more like the Mariana Trench, but still formed generally here and just ballooned out by those kinds of nova type things. So these are probably just like a lot of novas opening this space, which I've already kind of established by drawing out the novas that just went up that line, not realizing that's kind of just what's going on. So that gives us a pretty good progress on this region, I'd say. I don't want to just stop, but I feel like I made pretty good progress in this, getting kind of long. We got some, like, understand that according to plate tectonics, there's no reason for any of what I just said in this video, because there should be no across ocean interaction really of these land masses in the way that I'm describing, in the like magnitude, because it really doesn't fit into a plate tectonics model, because it assumes an ocean here. So there's just always a lot of space between the systems according to plate tectonics, because of the assumption of an ocean, when really beforehand it was closed. Although plate tectonics does make up for it by essentially, like, it was like this, then it was like that, then by basically things that were important at certain times, it basically shows it moved around like this and that, but like still on the same earth. But it's just like, there wasn't that ocean though, so that's just not true. And what's true is Papua New Guinea was actually right over here, and Australia was right here, and Antarctica was right here, and it looks like, based on what I just found, let me just go back, this corner was around here. So North Maluku, Indonesia is adjacent at Earth expansion times to Los Angeles. Adjacent to this region, where it kind of protrudes inward with the more mountainous terrain, I believe. I'm not completely sure, or lower elevation terrain. This protrusion inward, suggestive of like a node around here, is equivalent positionally to This one, Sulawesi, 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 whatever this is called. Pardon me, guys. Also Indonesia, apparently. And then across here, the next one, Brunei is representative of this stretch up to Vancouver, pretty much. And then Vancouver to Alaska being the Philippines. So the Philippines are formed in that way over here, though, probably, and got moved out by spacers, by bubbles forming, eddies, by currents going out of balance, by the vibrational balance between adjacent polygons going out of balance, leading to like poppings between the currents that then cause their bonds to sever, and then space to open up between the magma. Because essentially, like, if the Earth was at equilibrium, it wouldn't do anything, but because it's not, and it has this location for current to flow, it just flows, and it fills the space just like this, and then like this, and then fills the space more, and fills the space more, so there's something that started out little, but it's bigger and bigger and bigger, until it just fills the space enough to allow for equilibrium. Okay. Which would suggest Taiwan, maybe, region was what? If the Philippines were here, then maybe these are like nodes along the way, like positive nodes, where these are like negative nodes. These over here are like positive nodes, maybe, even though they're out in the ocean, so maybe not. But this is kind of like a positive node. This is kind of like a positive node. I don't know. This maybe. Just thinking maybe we can keep like zipping up the buttons. Like maybe if the Philippines is here, then maybe like Anchorage, this especially is something right here. Like it's missing some, it's a negative to some positive somewhere. Let's maybe measure this distance here. Kind of follow the curvatures. Up to like 1,000, but then just keep going, and 1250, 1260. Let's say if the Philippines are up to like 1,000 across, not maybe, I mean, yeah, pretty much, okay. And then presume that's like to here. That's pretty much there. So if we keep going, maybe Taiwan is the one that would be that 1261. So like Taiwan, maybe energetically this region was bonded to Anchorage, which even seems to have like a general bubble there that has like a negative and a positive aspect to it, where over here maybe it has a negative and a positive, or yeah, maybe a negative, positive. I don't know where the negative would be. And let's keep measuring though. Maybe just got across here to the next corner-ish. I was trying to go to like the corner, not just to Japan, but to this like generally where it bends. So that was another 1,000 miles basically to another corner. So from Anchorage to maybe to here. Let's see. trying to a degree to follow the curvature. Okay, that's not 1,000, but it's not that far from it. Let's measure this one. Let's assume this was about the edge of Japan that I started at. Let's just say that fit, it was a little off, enough to just kind of keep going to see if this continues to pretty well fit at least. Okay, so 810 miles. I'm wondering if this is 810 miles. I also did it very bent. I mean, I feel like it should kind of be bent though. That added that was 930, so that's another 100 miles compared to this. To go to here. And then we're pretty much just here. Whew, it is. For sure this is a little more complex than, because I just haven't thought about this region much. So I'm just kind of extrapolating. I'm starting way over here, going through all these nodes and just like hoping it continues to fit perfectly without any adjustment in my line of reasoning whatsoever. And maybe that's a little wishful thinking. I did manage to get through this one, this one, this one, this one, over to here, plus from here through here, over to here pretty well, which I'd say is pretty good. At least to here pretty well. After that it starts to get a little more questionable, but maybe there's something I'm not accounting for. Okay, this one's definitely gotten long enough, and I mean, I don't want to be like it not useful enough because it's bomb information, so I don't feel like it's not worth the time. But I probably should just kind of pause here and be back whenever. See you soon.